welcome to a presentation of the Inway Bank Automation Suite. The Bank Automation Suite is a tool that helps you reading in the bank statements and every single bank statement lines into the system, and therefore helps you reduce the time you need for your manual work of adding every single bank statement line into the system. So let's start presenting you how you can do that on your daily work. First of all, the Bank Automation Suite adds a few menu items into the cash and bank management. So you see, for example, some additional things in the bank statements. We've added the advices, and we have a few parameters down here we can configure. Start with the bank statements. So the first thing is we can import a bank statement. I'll just do that right now, showing you a few things we have added. For example, there is a few bank statement formats we're supporting. One of the most common ones are the MT940 and the CAMT053. We also allow import of PayPal files. We'll start with an MT940 right now. So I'll just click on a statement line that has been downloaded from the other bank software. I will import into here. To do this, I do a few things manually. We could also automate things by starting the reconciliation directly. I'll do that not for the demonstration purposes. So once the bank statement is imported, we can see this here in the statement line. And in the blue line, we can already check we've imported only one bank statement, and that is imported in the DEMF company. So the software would be able to allow multiple bank statements and even into multiple legal entities to be imported. So just close this now and go into this statement. So one of the things we're doing with the Bank Automation Suite is we actually use standard as much as possible. So when you want to check what's been done, we always go onto a general journal, which we can check here. So we have created in the background a general journal with the statement number, and the lines we're currently having in here is empty. So the whole Bank Automation Suite only helps you filling in these journals and do not actually do any posting except once you're ready to post them. So next thing, as I told, we run that manually, the recognition rules. So you see all statement lines are currently not processed. So we run the recognition. That's done in a couple of seconds. You'll see. And now we already see a lot of check marks here. So a lot of statement lines have been already recognized. I want to show you that with the first example, the invoice here. We are seeing here, we have a log file that actually shows us we have found a cast trans. So we have found this ENV 163 being found for a customer with the amount, and we already see it is balanced. So let's close that and check that in here. So we find that the settlement has found a customer, and even more, when we click on function settle transactions, we can actually see that it already has marked this CIV 063 that we have found before with the correct amount. So everything is settled, and that would be already prepared just by one or two clicks to be read in and recognized. Let's go through some other examples. Next one you already see in the entry references. We have multiple invoice numbers mentioned. So what happens here is you can actually see in the settlement we found a customer, and in the functions we already see that we have marked the two invoices that were found in the entry reference, and they are all also settled. So we see that this settlement will be done for the right amount. One thing we're doing with the Bank Automation Suite is we always import the data as an offset account type bank against the offset bank that we have set up. Let's go to the next one. That's an interesting one because we can not only go for invoices, but this is actually in order. When we check in the settlement, we can see that we are fulfilling the data that is the standard of the Dynamics Finance and Operations. That is An order can only be fulfilled with an invoice when we have material sent out. So therefore we are getting money in a prepayment situation, which we can prove here by checking that it has configured the prepayment journal voucher being set and the payment reference as it is in the standard to actually then fulfill this order with this payment. Okay. Let's find one next line where we see we have found a customer and we have some dunning charges, but the system wasn't able to find the correct statement. Let's check the log file again. So you see we have found the extracted result. We found the customer, but we could not balance that. So why is that? We'll check into the settlement. That's part of the things that is the daily work when you use the bank automation suite. You already have a very good impression what's happening because it has filled the customer, but it has found a credit of 50 and we're not sure where that belongs. We go into the settled transactions and we see that we have 50 euros, but we have two separate amounts that the system could not find. So we can mark them directly in here. So we see it is now settled. And when we close that and return to the main page, we now see that this is also check marked. So that's also done correctly. Going through a couple of more lines, we'll find one other interesting thing I wanted to show you, which is this one is also not settled. So let's see what we find in the log file. We see that we have found a customs and an open transaction here, but it has a different amount because you see here that we are having 218,479 and 48 cents, and the amount being paid is without the cents. So let's see how that works. We go into settlement and we now see that we're expecting the 48 to be paid. So the way we are solving that is by going into fetch report entry amount, which returns us the value without the 48 cents. And if we now go into function settle transactions, that's a standard feature. It's nothing we have implemented, but is a standard of the Dynamics environment. We now have a better balance difference of 48 cents, and we can click on the fully settled, which will then move that into the cash discount. So there is a standard cash discount account configured in your environment, which is now being used for that. So once we'll check that, we'll see that everything now is settled. Every single line is green. And to prove that, we're going back into the general journal we have configured. So we go into the lines again, and we can now see every single line that will be posted when we are ready to be posted. Once again, this is a verification. The people who do the daily work can check every single line that's been done, including item sales groups and tax groups here, sales tax groups, in case there's any need to configure anything. That's the posting that will be done when we are ready to be posted. So the very last step then would be to actually post the statement. I'm not doing it right now. Let's go to the next thing we have implemented, that is the advices. For the advices, we have an advice already prepared, so we are a day earlier. We have had a PDF file I can show to you just in a second. That has been read in. So this PDF file has been read in, and we see that there is a few invoice numbers in here. We have registered already. We can run that through recognition, and we have already marked and set the following invoice lines. What we then do is the day later, we go into the bank statements. We import the statement where the bank statement line will reference the advice. I'll just show that quickly. We'll import that. So we have read in the statement line 137, one single statement imported there. And we'll see that within this bank statement line, the reference shows us the advice we have imported. Now we run the recognition. And with that, it has found the advice, and that's all you see in here, and it found the advice number. And what it has done in the background is we see that one single payment went for multiple customers, and in here with the multiple customers, we even have, as we had before, multiple marked invoice lines now. You also see that the system calculates the amount, the full amount and the amount to settle, because we see that that we are having a cash discount on this. Okay. So once again, the advice done a day before will be read in with the bank statement line, and it will settle all the different lines that were marked already. So how is this all set up? Going a little bit through the statements we need to configure here. So we have the bank parameter statement recognition for the bank software. There is one parameter we can set up to use for every journal that is in here. So we are using the general journal in here. That is the system-wide configuration. I'll show you in a minute where you can configure that per bank separately. You can also configure the standard recognition engine, the posting date, and if you want to control the voucher per statement line. Down here we have intercompany settlements. That is something when some single person reads in a bank statement or multiple bank statements that belong to multiple legal entities. So that would then end up not going only into the DEMF, but also into multiple legal entities that you have configured. With this import active, you actually configure which legal entity has an active import running. And some other configurations we have in here is the advices. So what's the OCR recognition method we are using here, the ABI Cloud. Checking against the bank accounts, there is a few additions we have done in here as well. And that is we have in the reconciliation, we have added the statement format for this bank. And as I said, we are able to configure a separate journal per bank if that's needed. Otherwise, we will run against the general journal that we've configured into the parameters. Some other things we need the software to be configured before we can actually work with the bank automation suite is the recognition rules. So, for example, in here I have an invoice set up. So we are using the regular expression here that actually says search for a string that starts with a CIV and a dash followed by a 6-digit number, which then gives us an idea what we're expecting. We can also tell the system where we're actually looking for. We're looking in the statement line of the bank statement file, and we look in the file entry reference. Where we are searching is also very clear here. We're looking in the customer transactions table, and we look for the field invoice. So that's the parameters we need to set up for an invoice. And to prove that, we can actually type in some text in here. So any text we put in here, followed by a CIV 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We can run that in the test, and what we return is with all the text we are entering, we are looking for the extracted result with a CIV followed by a 6-digit. So that's also very clear what this does. There's a few things we're doing in here. For example, we have the order set up. I demonstrated that when we have an order text followed by a 6-digit number, we actually configure the system that this is a statement line entry reference, but we're looking in the sales orders for a sales ID, and we configure it to be a prepayment statement in here. So our software is not only able to process invoices, but also orders, but we have more. For example, you can configure the system against standard parameters. I'll just show you one, that is the leasing, for example. So we can set up things that it looks for a special string in the leasing, for example, and then park the money against a vendor transaction invoice. Or if you want, for example, with a rental, I can show you that when we find a special thing, in my example, it is the string rental, that we're actually configuring the system to actually say we want to configure an offset account. So we are saying that every rental string we are finding will go against this ledger offset account. So that's also configurable. So every booking you're having in the system, we need to configure this setup to actually mark exactly the way you want this to be processed. So with that, I will conclude this video demonstration. Thanks for your time. Bye.
Inway Systems. Business Software Excellence.